throne of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. The Bible basically says that, you know what, when we stand before God, no one can have excuse. No one can, when God judges the world on the day of judgment, when people are being thrown into a devil's hell, there is no one that's going to stand before God and say, God, I never knew about you. I never knew you. It says, the wrath of God will be put on, displayed on mankind for ungodliness, because God has made all things known to man. God, the proof of who God is already there. Just by looking at creation, the proof of God is there. How many people know the proof of the building is of the builder is the building? You don't need to see the builder to know there was a builder, because you have the building. In the same way, we don't even need to see God hanging out the sky, because we have creation. Creation is proof of God. And that's what our text is saying. It says the invisible nature of God, attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. Because although, verse 21, although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, nor were they thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into the image made like corruptible man, and birds, and four-footed animals, and creeping things. The Bible basically says, people have worshipped the creation instead of the creator. Yeah. That God is very clear for all to see. Anyone who claims there is no God immediately becomes a fool. Anyone who doesn't make seeking God their priority is an instant fool, a moron. That's the Greek word for fool. That if you're not seeking God, you're a waste man. So put it in today's terms. Why is it wise to seek Jesus? Why is it wise that we seek Jesus even as we remember Christmas? Well, the reason is because Jesus came to save your soul. See, the wise men were wise to go seeking Jesus, because Jesus had come to save their souls. The reason why Jesus was born, the reason why God was in the form of a baby in a manger, was because he wanted to save man from their sin. He was born to give us the most valuable thing we could possess, our salvation for our souls. You know what? You can have everything this world can offer, but if your soul is not saved, you are a fool. Someone say amen. Because how many people know rich people die? Come on now, professors die. Yeah. I don't care if you're Einstein, you're going to die. Right? And if your soul is not saved, all your wisdom is futile. Jesus, wisdom begins with seeking Jesus. Matthew 16:26. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? If someone offered you £1 million, would you exchange that for your soul? Of course not. Because your soul is the most valuable thing you have. See, Solomon, we read of King Solomon. The Bible tells us Solomon was the wisest king that ever lived. He was not just the wisest king that ever lived, he was the wealthiest king. You read about Solomon, it says all the kings of the earth will come to pay homage to him. They would bring gifts and they'll bring all of this stuff. Solomon, he was a king that never went to war once, because all the other kings came to just bless him and give him stuff. He had more women than you can count. He had 700 wives. Can you imagine? He doesn't have to see the same wife more than once every 2 years. That's mad thing. He had 700 wives and he had 300 engaged. Someone said he's a player.
He's a player.
But the point is, Solomon had everything the world could offer. Can you imagine? That for some men, right? That's the dream. Right? Crazy men, may I say. But that's the dream. You've got all the money in the world. No one wants to be your enemy. You've got bare women. He had everything the world had to offer. But Solomon is about to die and is writing towards the end of his life. Listen to what he says. You can follow along with us. Ecclesiastes 12, verse 6 to 14. Says these words. It says, remember your Creator before the silver cord is loosed, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher shatters at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the well. In other words, remember God before you die. Right? That's what he's talking about. All the silver cord and all of that. It's basically saying before all of the stuff you have in this world, before everything you're banking on, before everything you're chasing after in this world, before all of that disappears, remember God. Then, verse 7, the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. Vanities of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity. Let's jump to verse 12. Further, my son, be admonished by this, of making many books there are no end, and of much study, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. In other words, let us summarize life. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. For God will bring, this is why you got to fear God, verse 14, for God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. This is powerful because here's Solomon. He's the wisest king that's ever lived. He's had experiences people only dream of. He's had money he couldn't count. He's got everything this world could give him. And he comes to the end of his life and finally he gets wisdom. He says, listen guys, you can't show me nothing. You can't, you know, these days they do like these prank videos where someone drives up in a nice whip and they try and get someone because of what they've got. Like, it's like, you can't trick me with what you got. I've seen it all. But let me show you the conclusion of the whole matter, the summary of life. Fear God and keep his commandments. Because all what you have will disappear. And it will go. Thank you very much, bro. All what you have will disappear and it will go. Fear God and keep his commandment, because one day you're going to stand before him and he's going to judge you. See, wisdom starts by seeking God. Someone say amen this morning. Amen. Proverbs 9, 10 to 11. Fear the Lord. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. For by me, God says, your days will be multiplied, and your years of life will be added to you. Fearing God makes sense because he holds the very life you have in his hand. This was the problem with the rich fool. You know the story. He's made life for himself. He says, I'm just going to sit, eat, and be merry. At Christmas, I'm going to have a Merry Christmas. And God said, you fool. Tonight, I require your life. You know there's some people that want to die at Christmas. They're preparing and they've kept God out of it. And God says, you fool. Tonight, I require a life. You see, these men were wise because they heard about Jesus. They had information about Jesus, but they used that information to seek Jesus. Will you seek Jesus this Christmas? Or is he going to go to the back as you enjoy yourself? And so this is the first thing we see in our text that made these men wise. The first lesson we learn from them